Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube page, Reading Smoke with Phil Jost, and I'm Phil Jost. Let's get started. Hey, we're looking at reading smoke from a perspective of using a transitional attack. And I'm not here to say that transitional attacks work every time or they never work. I believe they work. I believe that there's times when they're very applicable, both in large staffing and small staffing departments. My basic philosophy for firefighting is that water should be applied to the seat of the fire as fast as possible. Now, as we look at these transitional attacks, we're also looking to be as effective as possible when we're doing that, right? So, using reading smoke to identify where you think the fire location is, where is the seat of the fire, and generally we're doing that by velocity, right? So if we look at volume, velocity, density, color, the four characteristics of smoke that we talk about all the time, we're talking about reading smoke. It's always volume, velocity, density, color. And velocity is the king of now. So wherever the highest velocity smoke is, the highest velocity from the most restricted opening, or if you have a series of openings that are all the same, a bunch of open windows, the highest velocity from those same openings, wherever the highest velocity closest to the seat of the fire. That's because as the fire grows, the temperature increases, the pressure increases, and as that pressure increases, the speed of smoke exiting the structure is going to be faster, right? So it's also important to recognize that when we're talking about velocity, don't be distracted necessarily by volume. More volume does not necessarily equal more velocity. In fact, an open window that has a lot of smoke coming out of it, right? There's a high volume, a lot of smoke. Adjacent to that, like in the next room over, there might be not very much smoke because the window is closed, but that smoke is screaming out around the cracks and seams of the window, right? So the velocity is much higher. That's going to be more close to the seat of the fire. So in this case, what we have is this fire is actually working down below. In fact, they've had a fire in this place before, and there's some holes in the floors and stuff. So there's definitely a fire on floor 1, and it's extending up to floor 2. And so what we're going to get to see here is pretty significant volume, right? A lot of turbulent, thick black smoke coming out of floor number 2. And they're going to be very delayed, not because they're not working hard, but you can see that the windows are all boarded up. Right, so as they get this thing going, what you're going to see is you can actually watch fire coming out around the cracks down here, around this window and stuff. And certainly you can go to the show notes, see the whole clip, do all that kind of stuff, right? But there's definitely a fire working down here on floor 1. And so this is what we're going to use this as an opportunity for us to look at reading smoke in the transitional attack. So we know the fire is in the basement. What's going to happen though is the fire is going to extend up into this window that's just up here, right, just outside the frame. You can see it occasionally on the Alpha Bravo corner. And while they're working to get the forcible entry done and do all that kind of stuff, they end up putting some water in this window. And this is a good example because we know the fire's not in that room. Now they're going to convert that room. You'll always convert, I shouldn't say always, you'll almost always convert the room you're putting water into from being fire. If it's showing fire, you're going to convert it at a minimum down to only showing smoke. There are some exceptions where maybe if there's a big attic and there's nothing coating, but we can see the fire is extended, right? It's extended. It's got a bi-directional flow. There's air going in at the bottom, even though it's mostly exhaust. There's some air going in at the bottom, bi-directional flow. But we know this is not the seat of the fire. Right, we know that's not the seat of the fire right there, and so they're going to put some water in here. What we're going to look for, okay, what we're looking for in our transitional attacks, if we're in the fire compartment, if we're putting water in the primary fire compartment, we're going to get a rapid and sustained decrease in velocity and density. Okay, so they're going to convert this. And what you're going to see, let's predict it, right? We're going to see is that the velocity and the density doesn't go away hardly at all. The color changes. It changes from being fire to being smoke, but there's still a significant amount high velocity, so turbulent, thick smoke. There's a change in white, but it's dirty, dirty, dirty white because there's so much black smoke in it. And that's what's going to happen, right? So let's let them do their attack here. And we're going to watch now. It's going to be up in that edge, right? So you're going to have to keep your eye up there. But you're going to notice that there's just, the velocity just keeps coming, right? Here we go. Right, there's still turbulent, thick, very dark gray smoke coming out of the room. Did they convert the room? Yes, they did convert the room, right? But you notice these other windows, right? So we want to take note of the fact that the other windows, so let's go back and we'll show it one more time, and after they get that going, the video got a little choppy. That happens sometimes when I move the video around. Let's give it another shot. See if it smooths out. Come on, video. Here we go. That looks like pretty good. Okay, so they're going to convert the room. Now, as the camera pans over, notice there's still turbulent, thick black smoke, not just from this room where we're focusing our attention, but from the other rooms as well, right? And this is a case where we know what the story is, right? We know they're not going to convert it here, but we can use this as an example to show us that if we don't have that rapid decrease in velocity and density, we're not converting the fire room. So imagine that you thought this was like, not this scenario, but another scenario where you thought, hey, that's the primary fire compartment. I want to do transitional attack in that window. You start that transitional attack and you're going to convert that window. If it was just smoke, great. If it was fire, great. Either way, if that's your primary fire compartment, you're going to convert it, right? But what you should have after that is this rapid and sustained decrease in velocity and density, because you've mostly tapped the fire. Now that doesn't mean you don't have to get in there and dig it out, get your searches done really for full extinguishment, but what it does mean is you hit the main body of the fire. Now if you have a situation like this where you think this is the fire compartment, you do your attack, but you have no decrease in velocity and density, or very minimal decrease in velocity or density, and when you shut the line down, that velocity and density just keeps coming, right? That means that's not your primary fire compartment, and you need to figure out some other way. See that return? Instantaneous return, right? Instantaneous. Now another thing we could look at is, so that instantaneous return just tells you, like, putting more water in that compartment is probably not going to do more to impact the fire. You've converted the room, but that's not your primary fire room, and you need to figure out some other way, some other attack, maybe the next room over, maybe it's got to be an interior attack, but you need to move on tactically, right? You need to recognize this and move on to another opportunity to have a positive impact on the outcome, right? You'll always convert the room. What happens to that smoke? Read that smoke, right? And recognize a rapid decrease in velocity and density in the right spot. Velocity and density that just keeps coming means you need to do something different. All right. And so this is a series, right? And it's getting refined a little bit as we go along over the course of like 4 or 5 posts. So I appreciate you being with me. I appreciate you tuning in to my YouTube page. And if you have a link to a great video of a transitional fire attack, good one or bad one, right? Or highly effective versus less effective, right? Then I'd love it if you sent that to me, a direct message or email, or hit me up on Facebook or Messenger or whatever, right? Join me every Thursday, 2 o'clock for new content. Doing a lot of stuff on video right now because it's snowing out here in the Mountain West, and when there's fresh snow, I'm outside. Anyway, thanks for being here. I really appreciate the feedback. I really appreciate you being part of the Reading Smoke Nation. My teaching schedule's on the post here, so if you want to get a chance to see me, then that's where you can see me. If you want to bring me in, then just let me know. All right. For Reading Smoke with Phil Jose, I'm Phil Jose, and I'm out.